Trump as the Mouse King or the Rat King assassinated right in front of that picture of Abraham Lincoln. Now, we can look at the stuff that's out there and we can say, well, maybe they won't actually assassinate Donald Trump before then, but that would make the most sense. I mean, they've already attempted to take his life supposedly twice, right? So why would anybody out there think that he's in the clear? I mean, people will be, if you're talking about how to bring about order out of chaos, the most chaos you could possibly imagine would be something happening to Donald Trump between now, when the majority of people supposedly voted for him, and the majority of people, everybody feels this sigh in the air. Everybody, you could feel it. You could hear people like, oh, what a relief. They didn't rig the election. That's what they're all saying, because everybody out there knows or knew that there's no way that if the election was real, that anybody would actually vote for Kamala Harris. Just like nobody would have voted for Joe Biden. So everybody out there who believes in the Constitution, they're of course naturally, because they're being deceived, actually believe and like Donald Trump. So they're all feeling a sigh of relief because they're saying, wow, the mainstream, you can feel it. They're saying, wow, the mainstream media is actually reporting that Donald Trump won. Yeah, we haven't heard Kamala Harris, as of me recording this, concede the election yet, but you feel the sigh of relief everyone has, because they all thought that there was going to be major manipulation, that they were going to tell everybody out there that Kamala Harris won in a landslide, something that they would deny the outcome of. And of course, we're seeing Democrats deny the outcome of this already, talking about Russia collusion. This is all stuff that's been ingrained in their heads. Bomb threats were supposedly called, and all these psyops that the government themselves put out there. So it's very important to note, because the majority of people think that after the election, that person's automatically the president of the United States of America. There can be disputes. Don't forget of all this stuff that they've done already with trying to prosecute Donald Trump and throw him in jail. You're going to hear the stories begin. This is not over. This is not just going to be 2 months of waiting for Donald Trump to go into power. We know that order out of chaos is needed. And there is going to be chaos in the next couple of months. You can guarantee it. It's just a matter of how do they do it. So I'd be very surprised in the next 2 months if we hear nothing, if it's just silence waiting for him to take office in January. I think before December 17th, we're going to hear something go on, before the electors meet. The electors have to meet in all 50 states and the District of Columbia and cast their ballots, 1 vote each for president and vice president, and then transmit these votes to national activists and the president of the Senate in D.C. And oh, by the way, who is the president of the Senate in D.C.? That would be Kamala Harris, the president of the Senate. So there's a lot of twists and turns that can be taken. I think when you watched how people are responding to this is exactly what they want. They want people celebrating. They want people feeling like Donald Trump is going to save the day. And nobody out there is actually thinking that something could actually occur between now and Inauguration Day. But too many seeds have been planted for something big to go on. I'm not buying it one bit. Now, the other thing that's out there that we've heard whispers about, and everybody has mentioned it a few times over the last 4 years, especially with the outbreak that occurred, is the president invoking emergency powers. And if you didn't hear, the U.S. military is testing nuclear missiles. This is just a quote. Your take on nuclear missiles or not is one thing, but this is something that's out there. The U.S. was testing nuclear missiles hours after the polls closed. So they're putting seeds out there in people's minds that we could suddenly get sucked into World War III, and the president, Biden, could declare emergency powers. There could be another outbreak. There could be many things that happen. They're not done playing with people by any stretch of the imagination. This right here feels like the calm before the storm, because everybody out there feels this sense of relief, because there isn't a dispute going on yet. There isn't any type of controversy. It was just pretty much a landslide for Donald Trump. So people out there are trusting in the system again, saying, look, they couldn't rig it. It was too big to rig. But the narratives of the assassination, the electoral vote on December the 17th, and remember, if they wanted Donald Trump dead, he'd be dead. But why would they kill him before the election? What would cause more chaos? Killing him before the actual election, or killing him after the citizens in the country supposedly vote him in to be the president, before he could take office again, before he's officially put in on December 17th, something happens to him. And the Constitution itself doesn't state what the resolution would be. That's why I read that to you. What were some of the quotes in that? What happens if a candidate dies or becomes incapacitated? For anybody out there that wants to find this actual article, it's archives.gov/electoralcollege/FAQ. And what does it say? It says, we don't know what would happen if a candidate who dies after or becomes incapacitated between the meeting of electors and the counting of electoral votes in Congress. The Constitution is silent on whether this candidate meets the definition of president-elect or vice president-elect. So it's not as simple as saying, well, if something happens to Trump in the next couple of weeks, that J.D. Vance would take office. It's not that simple. In fact, nothing like it has happened before. And guess what? If you're not paying attention, the things that we're seeing happen on a day-in, day-out basis is nothing like we've ever seen before. And when the government website themselves says there's no federally required process to follow if a candidate who is projected to receive electoral votes dies or becomes incapacitated between the general election and the meeting of electors, well, you should look at that and say, I guess there's a first time for everything, right? Maybe, maybe not. Just my take on things, watching how people are responding, knowing how wicked these people actually are, how many people out there are tweeting things about God, and how many of these celebrities like Russell Brand or this alt-right media is thanking God, saying it's a miracle from God. You can feel like something is brewing. I believe something is definitely brewing, and I'll be talking about it more over the next couple of weeks. Don't forget, with the assassination attempts on Donald Trump, for years and years and years, me and many other people out there have been talking about the predictive programming with an assassination of Donald Trump. Now, when it actually occurred, the attempted assassination attempt, it was very clear that it was a false flag, that they did that to ignite more fury, to build more support for Donald Trump, because the support was already insane of how badly people were clinging to Donald Trump because of how deliberately bad our government has made our way of life in America over the last 4 years, that the fake assassination attempt only gave Trump more credibility in people's eyes. If you want to bring order out of chaos, if you want to divide this country into two separate countries and bring about civil unrest, that would be the perfect way to do it. Because then, guess what happens? We don't know what happens. We don't know who they tell us the next president is. In fact, if it goes to the U.S. Senate and Kamala Harris is one of the people who's deciding or making the ultimate vote, what do you think could potentially happen? Well, a lot could potentially happen that nobody out there is prepared for yet, because everybody out there thinks that the calm is over, that the people have voted. Well, what happens when the people think that they've made the choice, that they've changed the error that's going on in America, that they're making things right, and then suddenly it's taken from them, and the people in power get to decide who's right for the job, who's the right person to put in as the next president of the United States, because the Electoral College decides the president. The Electoral College can change in an instant. They could sit there and they could say, now that he is no longer alive, well, now we need to all get together and we need to make the best decision for the citizens in America. And American citizens will revolt against that. And that's exactly what they want. They want the infrastructure to be taken down. And what better way to do it than to create something that's never been done before, to create something where there is no precedent. There is no exact formula on how to determine the next president. Well, then you can look around and you can start saying to yourself, this right here, this is the beginning of the destruction of the United States of America. That's just my take, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not buying it for 1 second. I still believe that the rug is going to get pulled out from underneath the conservatives' feet, and I think it's being done deliberately by design. I thank everybody for being here. More to come on this topic. Hope you're all doing well. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. You think it's over? You think it's going to be a smooth, quote-unquote, transition of power with all the programming we've seen over the last couple of years, with all the narratives about how Trump wouldn't show up with the transition of power to Biden? Oh, there's going to be a lot. But everybody out there right now is just silent. They're going, wow, I can't believe it, but I can believe it, because nobody in a million years would vote for a Democrat because they're communists, and America's a country built on capitalism, so why would anybody ever vote blue in the first place, right? Nobody should even have to be thinking like that, because these people like Joe Biden would never be president of this country in the first place if they weren't placed there to start, right? So we'll see what happens. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. God bless all of you and your families as always.